Babe, what'd they tell you? Nothing. Okay, she was life flight in
A
here.
phone call at dawn. Two families shattered forever. On July 31st, 2022, Mackenzie Shirilla's parents learned that their 17-year-old daughter had survived a car crash. But the relief turned to horror. Her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and his friend, Davian Flanagan, were dead. Police said it wasn't an accident. The car hit a brick wall at 100 miles per hour. And the evidence pointed to one terrifying truth. Their daughter had done it on purpose. This is the story of how a teenage girl became a murderer. July 31st, 2022. A quiet street in Strongsville, Ohio. Just after 5:30 a.m., a Toyota Camry rocketed toward a brick building at 100 miles per hour. Inside, 3 teenagers, Mackenzie Shirilla behind the wheel, and 2 teenagers dead. The crash was so violent that debris scattered over 50 feet. But the wreckage wasn't discovered until 45 minutes later. A passerby driving to work spotted the mangled car and called 911. By the time police arrived, Dominic and Davian were already dead. Mackenzie, bloodied and unconscious, was pulled from the driver's seat and rushed to the hospital. At first, it seemed like a tragic accident, but detectives quickly noticed red flags. The speed, which was 100 miles per hour, was no mistake. No skid marks. No signs of avoiding obstacles, and when they checked the car's black box, the data was damning. Mackenzie had pressed the gas pedal to the floor moments before the crash. Mackenzie never touched the brakes. Police also found drugs in her possession: marijuana, THC, and a digital scale. But the most chilling detail came from a forensic mechanic's report. The car was in perfect working order. No blown tires, no faulty brakes. This wasn't a mechanical failure. This was deliberate. And as Mackenzie recovered in the hospital, detectives dug deeper. Why would a teenager with no criminal record intentionally crash her car? The answer, they'd soon learn, lay in her relationship with Dominic Russo. A relationship described by friends as toxic, explosive, and dangerous. Just 2 weeks before the crash, Mackenzie had threatened Dominic in a heated argument. "I'll crash this car with you in it." But was it a throwaway threat or a promise? The evidence kept piling up, and prosecutors later revealed that Mackenzie had searched maps of the crash area days before the incident. And then there were her social media posts. On TikTok, she shared cryptic messages like, "I'm the one you die for." By the time Mackenzie was discharged from the hospital, the case had shifted from accident to homicide. Her parents, still reeling from the crash, now faced an unthinkable reality. Their daughter wasn't just a survivor, she was the prime suspect in a double murder. Mackenzie's and Dominic's relationship was far from ordinary. Dominic's friends urged him to end things. They said Mackenzie was possessive, controlling, and unpredictable. But Dominic stayed. Why? Some speculated he feared her retaliation. Others believed he thought she'd never act on her threats. And then the social media posts. The prosecutors, these weren't jokes. They were clues. But what about the motive? The prosecution argued it was all about control. Mackenzie, they claimed, couldn't accept Dominic pulling away. And when he tried to end the relationship, she allegedly chose a horrific way to ensure he'd never leave. Text messages revealed Dominic had told a friend, "She's scaring me. I don't know what she'll do next." The night before the crash, Mackenzie, Dominic, and Davian hung out at a friend's house. Witnesses said Mackenzie seemed agitated. She argued with Dominic in private, and later the trio left together in her car. What happened in those final minutes? Only Mackenzie knows, but prosecutors pointed to her actions, speeding through a familiar route, ignoring stop signs, and aiming directly at a solid wall. When police searched her phone, they found deleted messages. One sent to Dominic, "You'll regret this." Another said, "I'll make sure you never forget me." And combined with the threats and TikTok posts, prosecutors painted Mackenzie as someone capable of calculated violence. Even her own mother admitted to investigators their relationship was toxic, but I never thought it would end like this. By the time case went to trial, the question wasn't if Mackenzie caused the crash, it was why. Her defense team argued there was no proof she intended to kill. They claimed she might have been suicidal, not homicidal, but the judge dismissed this, stating, even if she wanted to die, that doesn't absolve her of murder. As the evidence mounted, one thing became clear. This wasn't a reckless teen making a mistake. It was a deliberate act fueled by a relationship that spiraled into something deadly. And for the families, the hardest truth was yet to come. The trial of Mackenzie Shirilla began in August 2023, over a year after the crash. Prosecutors faced a critical challenge, proving intent. Could they convince a judge that a 17-year-old deliberately killed her boyfriend and his friend? The answer lay in a mountain of evidence and a damning verdict. The prosecution's case hinged on three pillars. First, the surveillance footage. Second, the black box data. And third, her own words. Mackenzie's attorney claimed there was no proof she intended to kill. This was a tragic accident, he argued, a split-second decision by a troubled teen. He pointed to her clean record and a lack of witnesses to the crash itself. The trial lasted for 4 days. Witnesses described Mackenzie's volatile behavior. Friends recalled her threats to Dominic. A digital forensics expert testified about deleted text, including one sent hours before the crash. On August 14, 2023, Judge Russo delivered her verdict. Guilty on all 12 counts. The judge called Mackenzie's actions controlled, deliberate, and methodical. She added, this wasn't an accident, it was literal hell on wheels. Her parents, seated behind her, wept silently. Dominic's family hugged one another, relief mixed with grief. The defense vowed to appeal, arguing the judge ignored reasonable doubt, but for now the verdict stood. Mackenzie Shirilla, once a teenager with dreams, was now a convicted murderer. Yet the saga wasn't over. The next phase, sentencing, would force the families to relive the horror one final time. On August 21, 2023, Mackenzie Shirilla returned to court for her sentencing. Now 19 years old, she faced the possibility of life in prison. The courtroom was tense. Dominic and Davian's families sat in the front row, clutching photos of their sons. Mackenzie's parents sat behind her, their faces etched with disbelief. Prosecutors demanded the maximum sentence. They argued Mackenzie showed no remorse, pointing to social media posts of her attending concerts and parties after the crash. One video showed her laughing with friends just weeks before the trial. This isn't grief, the prosecutor said. This is indifference. Mackenzie stood to address the court. In a shaky voice, she read from a prepared statement. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm so sorry. I'm heartbroken. Dominic's mother, Christine Russo, responded bluntly. Dom and Davian were robbed of their futures. Mackenzie showed no mercy. Mackenzie Shirilla was sentenced on August 21, 2023, to the 2 concurrent life sentences with the possibility of parole after 15 years. Mackenzie collapsed into her seat, sobbing. Her parents left the courtroom without speaking to reporters. Today, Mackenzie Shirilla remains in prison. Her parents visit monthly, clinging to hope for parole. Dominic and Davian's graves are marked with dates too close together. A memorial near the crash site bears their names, surrounded by fading flowers and handwritten notes. The final question lingers. Was this a tragic accident or a deliberate act? The courts ruled it murder, but for those left behind, closure remains elusive. 2 families shattered, 3 lives lost, and a community forever haunted by a single unthinkable crash.